Hello everyone, a very good evening to all of you. This is Ashwin Ramani here, research analyst at SBI Securities. I hope I'm audible and I hope you all are able to see my screen. If you all can give me a heads up in the chat box. अगर मेरी स्क्रीन दिखाई दे रही है, आवाज सुनाई दे रहा है तो आप मुझे एक बार चैट बॉक्स में कमेंट करके बता सकते हो. So that I know you all are with me live in the session. We'll just wait for a couple of minutes. I see that people are joining in, and then we should be good to go with the continuation of the chart patterns webinar. So last week हमने पार्ट 1 देखा था चार्ट पैटर्न्स का, जहाँ हमने डबल टॉप, ट्रिपल टॉप्स, डबल बॉटम्स, ट्रिपल बॉटम्स, ascending triangle, descending triangle, and symmetrical triangle. So these are some of the patterns that we discussed last week. So today we'll just continue with respect to that. So today again, Bhuti ji, Dinesh ji, Sanjay ji, hello, Tapan ji, hello sir, super, great. So how many of you all were there yesterday? Not yesterday, I mean how many of you all were there last week? जहाँ पे हमने फर्स्ट पार्ट देखा था चार्ट पैटर्न्स का. How many of you all were there for the webinar? If you all can let me know in the chat box. Vijay ji, hello. How many of you all were there last week, guys, wherein we looked at these chart patterns, wherein we discussed ascending triangle, descending triangle, symmetrical triangle, then your double tops, triple tops, double bottoms, triple bottoms. Do let me know in the chat box. Vinay ji was here. No, I didn't attend. Okay, no problem. Okay. So today's session, what we will cover is, so we will cover rounding chart patterns. Then we will cover wedge patterns. फिर हम cup and handle देखेंगे, head and shoulder देखेंगे, and we will learn about flag and pole patterns. So these are some of the patterns that we will cover in today's session. So let us start. So the first pattern for today will be called as a rising wedge pattern. Now, if you look at rising wedge here, so rising wedge means it's a form of a triangle pattern where both the trend lines are heading in the same direction, and rising wedges occur either during a long downward price trend or an upward climax. So ideally a rising wedge, this is a reversal pattern, and that means जो भी इसका ये पैटर्न बनने के पहले जो भी एक प्रायर ट्रेंड है, वो ट्रेंड रिवर्स होके जैसे ही आपको ब्रेकडाउन मिलता है, वहां से आपको एक ट्रेंड रिवर्सल की आइडिया मिल सकती है. Now you can see this is ICICI Bank's weekly historical chart. Now look at this rising wedge carefully, guys. अब मैंने ऊपर यहाँ पे ये बोला कि the wedge pattern is like a triangle pattern, and you can see a rising wedge chart on my screen. Now, can you all tell me how different is a rising wedge pattern as compared to an ascending triangle pattern? Because ascending triangle is a classic triangle pattern, whereas wedge is also a triangle pattern. But if you know ascending triangle, can you tell me what is that one or maybe two fundamental difference between an ascending triangle pattern and a rising wedge pattern? If you all can take a guess in the chat box. I mean, wrong answers are completely fine, but I just want you all to, take a try. I mean, it's okay even if you get it wrong. Anyway, we are here to learn. So I just want to understand if you can tell me the difference between an ascending triangle and a rising wedge here. How many of you all can try this and let me know in the chat box? So if you remember what happens in an ascending triangle and what happens in a rising wedge. So I'll give you one fundamental difference. One fundamental is that ascending triangle is a continuation trend, whereas एक uptrend के बाद एक ascending triangle बनता है, then the trend continues in the direction of an earlier trend, whereas a rising trend में it's a trend reversal pattern. Murthy ji saying upper trend line would be horizontal. Perfect. Dinesh ji saying ascending triangle, horizontal line is placed at the top. Absolutely. So the only fund, exactly, you got it right, guys. So in an ascending triangle, there is a flat horizontal line and there is a higher low upward sloping line. Whereas in a rising wedge, you don't have a flat horizontal line, but you have an upward sloping line. So you will have an higher high, the price moving upwards. At the same time, you will also see an upward sloping. So it will be a higher high, higher low formation where the price contracts. And this is ideally seen after a prolonged uptrend or a prolonged downtrend. And that usually signals a reversal. तो जैसे ही ये जो लोअर ट्रेंड लाइन है, अपवर्ड स्लोपिंग ट्रेंड लाइन, जैसे ही इसका हमें ब्रेकआउट मिलता है नीचे, जैसे ये कैंडल क्लोज होता है, at this close is where your sell entry would be. Just above this trend line or just above the high of this candle is where your stop loss should be. And if you remember, we discussed about something called as the measured rule targets for these patterns. So you take the distance from this high to this low. Like you can see, there is a red dotted line here. उसी distance को यहाँ पे लेके you have to keep it at this high. ये जो trend line, rising trend line है, उसका अगर आप हाई पे रख दोगे तो आपको नीचे की तरफ एक मिनिमम टारगेट मिल जाएगा. In the sense, if you sell after a breakdown, you can keep your SL somewhere here, and this is where your minimum target is. So you can see a prolonged uptrend के बाद you could see a rising wedge, and once we got a breakdown, we could see the price falling, and this is ideally the minimum target for the rising wedge patterns here. Is the rising wedge pattern clear, guys? If you all can let me know in the chat box. I hope you all. So ascending triangle is a continuation pattern, whereas rising wedge is a reversal pattern. Secondly, ascending triangle may you have a flat horizontal trend line and a higher low, whereas rising wedge may you have a higher high as well as a higher low here, and it contracts moving upwards. Superb. Now exactly opposite of this is a declining wedge pattern. Now declining wedge is exactly opposite of a rising wedge. So Bulkowski, we saw Bulkowski was, a trader who has worked extensively on chart patterns. उनका एक website भी है, thepatternSite.com. I know. So we discussed about this last week. I don't know how many of you all got a chance to look at that website. So what happens in a declining wedge is that, now can you all tell me what is the difference between a declining wedge and a descending triangle pattern? Like one difference I could make out is in a descending triangle, it's a continuation pattern which is seen in a mid downtrend. मतलब price already downtrend में है, and then you see a descending triangle, and then once it breaks down, it continues its existing downtrend. Now, how different is a declining wedge as compared to a descending triangle? If you all can let me know in the chat box. Exactly the same fundamental difference, no lower low. So what happens in a descending triangle is you get a lower high formation, but there is a flat horizontal support line where the lows are almost or near about the same levels. But in a declining wedge, you will have a lower lows. So you won't have a flat support line, but you will have a downward sloping support line, and you will have a downward sloping upward trend line as well. And once it breaks out, the moment it breaks above, there's a wedge. Like I said, it's a reversal pattern. The moment you get a close above this is where you will enter. Just below this line is where you would keep your stop loss. And then you measure the distance from this high and this low, keep it at this low. And here you will get the minimum target for the declining wedge patterns. Very simple. It's just a variation of your triangle pattern. So in ascending pattern, you have a horizontal line, whereas in a rising wedge, you have a higher high. Whereas in a descending triangle, you have a horizontal support line, whereas in a declining wedge, you have a lower low pattern here. Those are ascending and descending are continuation, whereas rising wedge and declining wedge are your reversal patterns here. And especially if you get a breakout of any of those patterns, and if that is also supported by a volume spike, अगर आपको breakout के साथ साथ volume में भी एक बढ़ोतरी नजर आती है, then chances of that breakout moving in your direction is higher. Is the declining wedge clear, guys? If you all can let me know in the chat box. So I hope the rising wedge and the declining wedge part is clear. All good until now? Can you give me a heads up in the chat box? So the first pattern that we discussed was rising wedge. So it moves in a higher high, higher low formation, whereas declining wedge, it moves in a lower low and a lower high formation here. Superb. Now let's come to the third pattern. Now, how many of you all have heard about rounding tops and rounding bottoms? So these are also called as you call it as saucer pattern, or you call it as bowl, or you call it as cup. They are formed by price action that reverses slowly, gradually, rather differently from a spike with a definite and a sharp reversal characteristics. Now, let's first discuss a rounding top pattern. Now, what happens in a rounding top is, okay, now how many of you can give me a difference between a double top, triple top pattern and a rounding top pattern? If you all can let me know in the chat box. Now you know what a double top or a triple top is. Now compared to that, can anyone tell me how is a rounding top different from a double top or a triple top pattern? If you all can let me know in the chat box. So what happens in a rounding top is a chart pattern that is that graphically forms a shape of an inverted U. So you will have a high, then again, then you will have one more high, and then the first two highs will be lower than the third one, and the next two highs will also be lower than the third one here. So there is a high, then there is a high, then there is a high, and then there is a high, and then there is a high here. So basically, it should be in a form of a rounding top. So what happens in a double top or triple top? If you all can let me know in the chat box. कोई मुझे बता पाएगा डबल टॉप और ट्रिपल टॉप और राउंडिंग टॉप में क्या फर्क है? Now rounding tops are found at the end of an extended upward trend, and they signify a reversal. So again, this is a reversal pattern. It's not a continuation pattern. So you will get rounding top after an uptrend, and you will get a rounding bottom after a downtrend here. Can anyone take a guess? How is a rounding top different from a double top and a triple top here? Anyone wants to take a chance in the chat box? Come on, guys. I think you all can participate. Don't worry about the wrong answers that you want to give. Just take a try. Just take a guess. Because I think that is how you will learn in case you're learning it for the first time. So what happens in a double top and triple top is there is a flat line. So the tops are near about the same highs, and then it goes down, it goes below the neckline, and the price starts going down. So, but what happens in a rounding top is the highs are not at the same line. The highs are in the form of a curve. So there is a high, then there is a higher high, then probably there's an higher high, then there is a lower high, and then there is a lower high here. The highs are not at the same level like how we see in a double top and a triple top. They are in the form of a rounding top here. And the low, this is your neckline. The moment you get a breakdown below this neckline here, that is where you will sell. Just above this neckline is where you would keep your SL, and you take the distance from this neckline until the tip of your rounding top. You measure that distance and you keep it at the low of this neckline, and you will get the minimum target based on the rounding top pattern. So at the breakdown, you will sell just some points above the neckline is where you will keep your stop loss, and you calculate the distance from this high until the low of neckline, keep it at the low of the neckline, and you will see where the minimum target for the rounding top is the rounding top pattern clear, guys? If you all can give me a heads up in the chat box. All good. So again, rounding tops are found at the end of an extended uptrend, and it signifies a reversal. So this is a reversal pattern. It's not a continuation pattern here. If you all can give me a heads up, guys, in the chat box. All good. Perfect. Now, exact opposite of this is a rounding bottom pattern. Now, rounding top was an inverted U whereas a rounding bottom is probably a U-shaped pattern that is probably seen after a downtrend. Now, rounding bottoms are found at the end of an extended downtrend, and it signifies a reversal. Now, ideally, very similar to a double bottom, triple bottom. In double bottom and triple bottom, you will have lows around the same lows. Near about the lows will be somewhere near about the same level. But in a rounding bottom, the lows are not at the same levels here. So there'll be a low, then there'll be a lower low, then another lower low, maybe a higher low, and again a higher low here. So you will see low, 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 and then you will see a reversal also. So it should be a rounding bottom pattern. And the highs that are there between these patterns, that is your neckline. The moment you get a breakout above this neckline, that is where you would enter, and just below the neckline is where you will keep your SL. Assuming you would have taken your entry at this green candle, probably you would have kept your SL somewhere here. और अगले कैंडल में आपका SL ट्रिगर हो गया होगा. Don't worry, even in case your SL gets taken out, just see SL अगर आपका hit होता भी है तो देख रहा हो क्या होता है. There you can see the price moved up, and there it again retested that same level, consolidated for a few days. The moment this level got taken out, and then you could see that there was a reversal in the price. And you measure the distance from this low until this high, and take the distance and keep it at the high of this neckline, and that is how you will get the measured rule target for a rounding bottom pattern. ब्रेकआउट के बाद जैसे हमने लास्ट वीक भी डिस्कस किया था, हमें पता नहीं चलेगा कि ये ब्रेकआउट यहाँ से कंटिन्यू होगा या रिटेस्ट लेके ऊपर जाएगा या फेल हो जाएगा ब्रेकआउट. So every time you get a breakout, you have to take a chance and probably keep your SL somewhere below this neckline. In case if your SL gets hit, monitor that stock, see how the price moves. If it comes below the neckline again and goes down, then your pattern is invalidated. But अगर ऊपर ही है, retest दे रहा है, but see how it is moving around this neckline. And the moment you get a breakout, again neckline के आसपास ही SL लगा के, again you can take a re-entry into this stock again, and you can take advantage of the trend reversal here. Is the rounding bottom and the rounding top pattern clear, guys? So rounding top is, the highs are not in the same. So there's a higher high followed by lower highs, and then there are lower lows followed by a higher lows here. So we discussed 4 patterns until now. The first pattern was rising wedge. Then we discussed falling wedge. Then we saw rounding top, and then we saw rounding bottom. Okay. I think this is one pattern that I think you would have definitely come across. I think it's a favorite amongst a lot of people as well. That is called as your cup and handle pattern. So think of your cup and handle like the cup that you use to sip your coffee. So it will have a very small handle. Ideally, it's a D-shaped handle, and then you will have a big cup. It's not that the handle is pointing upwards. Usually we'll have a handle like this. But nevertheless, in that same context, so a cup and handle pattern, again, it shows that it's a variation of a rounding bottom. So rounding bottom, there is a rounding bottom and breakout, and the price moves up. What is that variation in cup and handle is? So there is, the price is already in a downtrend. So you can see this is Nifty Financial Services index chart. यहाँ पे आपको एक rounding bottom दिखा है. So there is a lower low and there is a higher low. Then it's not that it breaks out, then again it goes down, and again it makes a small rounding bottom. So एक बड़ा rounding bottom है, फिर एक छोटा सा एक rounding bottom है, and that is where, this is where your cup and handle, and once this breaks out, that is where your entry would be, and this is again your neckline. So this small rounding top is your handle, this big rounding bottom is your cup, or you can call it as bowl. And the moment it breaks out, this is where you will enter. Just below this neckline is where you will keep your stop loss. Again, take the distance from the tip of this low to this neckline high. Keep it at this neckline high here, and you can get the measured rule target for the cup and handle patterns. While breaking out of the down volume, yeah, ideally, see, one says a breakout, but along with breakout, if you are also seeing volume spike, that only adds conviction to it. So for example, the one that we saw here, so you can see there was a falling wedge, This is the green candle is where we got a breakout. At the same candle, you could see that the volumes were almost stagnant, and then there was a spike at the breakout as well. So there was a breakout followed by a volume spike. So ideally, any breakout, if it is supported by volume spike, that only adds conviction to your setup. So cup and handles is considered to be a bottoming reversal pattern. So basically, this small rounding bottom that you see, that is called as the lip. After a rise from a small congestion area that reverses downward for a short while, which is called as the handle. So this big rounding bottom is called as your lip, and the small rounding bottom is called as your handle. And the moment it breaks out, it closes above, that is where you enter. Just below the lip is where you will keep your SL. You take the distance from this low until this high, keep it here, and you will get the measured rule target for a cup and handle pattern. So agar ekdam downtrend ke baad hai, it's a reversal pattern. Clear? Is the cup and handle pattern clear, guys? If you all can give me a heads up in the chat box. All good until now? Cup and handle clear hai? I hope आपको ये patterns समझने में easy लग रहा है. I hope you all are able to relate this patterns well. Now this is your cup and handle. Then there is something called as okay, just a second. Okay, what would be the handle's depth? See, depth doesn't matter. I mean, there is no particular percentage for the depth here. Ideally it should look like a rounding bottom. That's how it is. मतलब इतना भी बड़ा भी नहीं होना चाहिए और 38% या 50% ऐसे. But ideally it should not, itna bhi bada nahi hona chahiye. Maybe somewhere around 30-40% is the depth that you can consider, but there is no particular depth percentage for the cup and handle pattern, not that I am aware of. I'm not sure if there is depth that is involved in these patterns, but it's just that it should look like a rounding bottom followed by a small rounding bottom again, and once you get a breakout, the price kind of moves up higher. Okay, so this is, I think, traders' favorite. It's your head and shoulder pattern. So basically, it's slightly complex because it combines all three potential characteristics of trend lines. So इसमें trend lines भी है, support resistance भी है, और rounding patterns भी है. So head and shoulders pattern is a series of three defined highs. या तो sharp highs रह सकते हैं या आपके curves भी हो सकते हैं. The second high is higher than the first and the third high. So the second high, it should be higher than the first high, and it should be higher than the second high as well. The middle, that is the higher peak, is called as the head. So basically, imagine this is a shoulder. So this is my high. The head is my high. And my right shoulder again is a high here. So my head is higher than my left shoulder. Head is higher than my right shoulder. So this is left shoulder first peak. This is my head. And this is my second shoulder. So that's a head. That's a shoulder, head, shoulder. So that is called as your head and shoulders pattern. So you can see the price started from here, made a small. So this is left shoulder. And then there is a big head. Then again, there is a right shoulder. And again, you see there is the moment. So there is a neckline. All the lows that connects these intervening high lows, this is your neckline. The moment it gives a breakout, so here this is where we got a breakout. Ideally, this red candle is where we got a breakout. Just above that is where we will keep our SL. We take the distance from this low of neckline until this high of the head here, and we keep it at the low of the neckline, and we get the minimum target for an head and shoulder pattern. The candles are formed by buyers and sellers, and the trend is formed by FIs buying. So how patterns give? So patterns just give a sense of what is happening here. Obviously, it's demand and supply, but patterns, Japanese patterns, it gives you a gist of how the price is behaving. So for example, here you can see the price went up, again it fell down, then there was a sharp jump, but it erased all the gains here. Then again it started to move higher, but then again it failed to move past the previous high here. So you can clearly see that the buyers are trying to push the price higher. They tried that, but they failed. Sellers pushed them down. Then buyers came in force again, and then the sellers tried to push them down again and made them go back to the same levels here. Then the buyers tried pushing up the price again. Sellers again tried to push them down, and eventually this is when the breakdown happened here. This is where the buyers gave up. And once the buyers gave up, the sellers had a free hand and they took the price down. So it's just that you are reading. It's more of these patterns are more of understanding how the price is moving and what the price is indicating. Obviously, it's the buying and selling that is the reason why the price moves. But these are certain patterns, and these patterns indicate something. So whether it's a double top where the price makes a high, it goes down, again it makes a high, it goes down. So it has failed to go past the high here. That is indicating that the buyers are not able to push the price higher and the sellers are gaining control. So again, if it falls back to the low here, if it bounces back, it's fine. But if it doesn't, because every time it falls to the neckline, the buyers try to push the price higher. But once it goes below the neckline, it means that now the buyers are losing strength and the sellers are taking over. So that's how you try to understand the psychology behind the patterns and try to, make a judgment out of the same. So head and shoulders pattern, is it clear, guys? This is head and shoulders top pattern. I hope this pattern is clear. If you all can let me know in the chat box. So both the left and right shoulders must be lower than the head, but the two shoulders do not have to be of the same height. ऐसा जरूरी नहीं है कि लेफ्ट शोल्डर और राइट शोल्डर का जो हाइट है वो सेम होना चाहिए. It can be slightly bigger or one can be smaller, or the right can be slightly bigger or the left can be smaller here. But the only condition is the head should be higher than both the shoulders. And once you get a breakdown, that is where you take a sell entry. Just keep the SL at the high and probably take the distance from the high of this head and the low of the neckline and get the minimum target as per the measured rule. Then similarly, the opposite of head and shoulders top pattern is your head and shoulders bottom pattern. What happens is exactly similar. So again, there is a left shoulder, right shoulder, and then there is a head. वो जो बीच वाला जो हेड है, that should be the lowest point. The left shoulder and right shoulder का जो low है, that should always be higher than the head. And you can see here the sellers try to push the price down. The buyers again push the price up to the same level. Again, the sellers tried to overpower the buyers, but the buyers came in strongly at the lower levels and again pushed the price higher. Then the sellers again attempted to push the price down and the buyers started to move higher. And once you got a breakout about this, now sellers have kind of given it. They tried once, twice, thrice. The fourth time they gave up and the buyers kind of took control here. And then there was a reversal in the price and the price started moving higher. So the moment we get a breakout, just at the breakout, we enter just below the neckline, we keep an SL. We measure the distance between the high of the neckline and the low of the head. And you take that distance and you keep it at the low of this neckline and get the minimum target as per the measured rule. If the price towards the second head, then also the pattern is valid. I didn't get your question, Sachinji. Can you reframe it again? So there is a left shoulder. So you can see the two highs are almost at the same level. And again, there is a neckline. So you can just draw a upward sloping trend line. Again, the price went down and it moved up. And the moment we got a breakout, so this is where the head and shoulders is. So it's slightly complex. So like I said, you need to train your eyes to spot these patterns. And these patterns will again only come with respect to practice. So the more and more patterns that you see and the more you train your eyes, the better you get as far as these patterns are concerned. Clear, guys? Is the head and shoulders bottom pattern clear? So until now, we discussed around 6 patterns. The first pattern that we discussed was rising wedge. Then we discussed declining wedge. Then we saw rounding top. Then we saw rounding bottom. Then we saw cup and handle. Then we saw a head and shoulder top. And then we also saw head and shoulders bottom as well. All good until now? Are you all with me in the session? क्या आप सभी लोग साथ में हो? आप मुझे एक बार चैट बॉक्स पे कमेंट करके बता सकते हो. So there are 2 more patterns to go and then I have a small quiz as well. जिससे पता चलेगा कि आपको कितना समझ में आया है आज का patterns. So let me know, guys, if or if the Sachinji is asking if the price moves towards the second head level, this one you're saying, okay, then also the head and shoulder pattern is valid. The head and shoulder pattern gets confirmed only after the completion of the third shoulder here, Sachinji. So you can see first the price needs to move down and it needs to go up. That is the first part of it. Then the price needs to go below this low, make a new low, and again go back until this high. That is where the second part of the pattern is. Then again the price should go down. This low should not breach this low, and again it should go up and it should hit the high here. This is the third part of the head and shoulder pattern. तो ये पैटर्न होने के बाद ही आपका हेड एंड शोल्डर कंफर्म होगा, फिर उसके बाद आपको ब्रेकआउट देखना है. एनी टाइम फ्रेम you can use it on 1 day, 1 hour, 30 minutes, 15 minutes, 1 week, 1 month, any time frame that you are comfortable seeing it, you can do that. Okay. Okay. Now the next pattern that we are going to learn is your flag and pole pattern. Again, it's one of the quite famous patterns here. So flag and pole, the flag is a short channel that usually slopes in the opposite direction of the trend. And the flags are preceded by a steep, sharp price trend, best at 45 degrees rather than a straight up. What that means is, so here can you see that there is a steep uptrend? Can everyone see that there is a steep uptrend here? And this flags are preceded by a steep, sharp price trend. That is एक short, मतलब एक sharp price के बाद you will see that the price is moving in a small channel. Now either it can be a straight flag wherein you are seeing highs at the same levels, lows also at the same level, or you can see a falling channel as well wherein the price is moving in a lower high and the price is moving in a lower low formation. So आपको एक बड़ा सा sharp price के बाद आपको एक flag, एक channel type pattern दिखेगा. And the moment we get a breakout, so you measure the distance from the low until this high of the flag. That is, sorry, the high of the pole. You keep it at the breakout, and this is where you will get the minimum target or the measured roll target for the flag and pole patterns here. Well, basically, the price from the lows, it has jumped up sharply, and then there is a correction, there is a consolidation phase, and again, there is a breakout on the upside. So flag and poles are your continuation patterns rather than your reversal patterns here. Is the flag and pole clear, guys? If you all can give me a heads up in the chat box. Your flag and pole pattern. This is your normal flag and pole. There is something also called as an inverted flag and pole as well, wherein you will see the price falling sharply and then it will consolidate in a channel and then again it will give a breakdown on the downside. Is the flag pattern clear, guys? If you all can confirm in the chat box, all good until now. Okay, no answers from anyone in the chat box. So, waiting for your heads up. Okay. And the last pattern, okay. So what happens is, so the price target for these flag and pennant, so there is also called as a pennant pattern. So I'll show you what a pennant pattern is. So let me kind of, okay. Now what happens, okay, can anyone tell me what is the difference between a flag and pole and a pennant pattern? So here you can see a pennant pattern on my screen. But can you look at the chart and tell me what is the difference between a flag and pole and a pennant pattern? Any differences that you can make out between a flag and pole? So both, even in flag and pole, maybe there is a steep rise. Even in a pennant pattern, there is a steep rise here. But how different is a pennant as compared to a flag? If you all can look at the chart and you all can kind of let me know Yes, in flag, the price moves in a channel, so it's more of a parallel channel. Yes, exactly. So, yeah, to exactly. So, pennant is more of a symmetrical, or you might get an ascending triangle. So, combination of that. So, here you will have lower highs and higher lows. It's more of a symmetrical triangle after a steep uptrend. So, when that happens, that is nothing but your pennant pattern. And again, you take the distance from this low until this high. You keep it at the higher, and that is, uh, I mean, the low of your pole to the high of the pole. Here, you measure that distance. You keep that distance at the high, and then you can get the measured rule target for the pennant patterns here. Exactly, narrowing trend line. Superb. So the price target are calculated by taking the distance from the beginning of a sharp trend, that is the low of the pole, and not necessarily the beginning of an entire trend, to the first reversal in the pattern, that is the जहां से वो हाई ऑफ द पोल है वहां से जो जब चैनल बनना स्टार्ट होता है वो डिस्टेंस हम मेजर करते हैं, and we add it to the breakout price. And this method is called as the measured rule. So it implies that the formation will occur roughly halfway through the entire steep price. And because of these patterns are called as half must patterns as well. So basically these are your continuation patterns. So flag, so there's a pole, there's a flag, and then when the price breaks out, that's a continuation pattern here. Here. So are you all ready to test your knowledge now? So we discussed about rising wedge, falling wedge, rounding top, rounding bottom, flag and pole, pennant, head and shoulder, cup and handle. Then in the previous session, we discussed about double top, triple tops, double bottoms, triple bottoms, ascending triangle, descending triangle, symmetrical triangles. So I'm pretty sure now that you have a good understanding about almost we somewhere around 7, 14, 15 patterns तो हमने आसानी से पढ़ लिया है 2 webinars में. So what I will do is I will keep 3 charts in front of you now. So you have a minute. जब भी मैं चार्ट रखूंगा, you have 1 minute to look at the pattern and you have to comment in the chat box as to what that pattern is. And let's see how many of you all get it right. Wrong answers are okay, but I want everyone to participate in this. Okay. Chalo, this is your pattern number 1. So this is Reliance Industries daily chart. Let me know how many of you all can spot a pattern here. Yeah, ideally not after a downtrend. Downtrend के बाद you will see a sharp rise, or an uptrend के बाद you will see a sharp fall. Usually it is preceded the channels and the symmetrical triangles that is formed, that is preceded by sharp move. So you need to have a sharp move. So that can be a start of an uptrend, then it consolidates, then it goes up, or start of a downtrend, then it consolidates and it goes down. So it can occur ideally, yeah, ideally it occurs after a downtrend only, because downtrend ke baad the price moves up sharply, then consolidates, and again it starts moving up higher. Okay, can anyone spot any patterns here on Reliance Industries daily chart? If you all can let me know. Head and shoulder. Sachin ji is saying head and shoulder in October, November month. Okay, are you all talking about this? I think you're talking about, so this is your shoulder, this is your head, again this is your shoulder, and then there was a breakdown and the price fell down. Is this the head and shoulder you're talking about, Sanjay ji, Sachin ji? Ye dekho, ye wala shoulder, shoulder 1. This is your big head. Then again there is a shoulder. So this high is lower than this high is lower than this high, and then there is a trend line, and then there is a breakdown here. Before 2024, वो head and shoulder नहीं है. It doesn't look like a classic head and shoulder. I think between June to October, this is where a classic head and shoulder looks. So this is your shoulder, head and shoulder. Rounding, very good, Sanjeev ji. There's a good rounding bottom pattern. How many of you all were able to identify this, guys? A rounding top. I think ये rounding top pattern भी है और एक head and shoulder pattern भी है. How many of you all were able to figure out these two patterns in this chart? So there is a good rounding bottom, there is a good rounding top, and then there is a head and shoulder as well, and then there is this neckline, and then there is a breakdown here. So ideally this is your rounding top pattern. There is a high, the price makes a new high, another, there is a high that is lower than the second high, and the price breaks this neckline and it starts moving down here. Good. I think if you have spotted head and shoulder, rounding bottom, rounding top, किसी ने बोला नहीं, but ठीक है, nevertheless. Okay, guys, chart number 2. Let's see how many of you all can take a guess. ये थोड़ा complex हो सकता है. Let's see how many of you all. See, there are no right answers because you can spot multiple patterns in a chart here. So let's see how many patterns can you spot in this chart. Any patterns that you see in Divi's Labs daily chart? No patterns. Okay, still trying to spot a pattern in this daily chart of Divi's Lab. मुझे तो यहाँ पे 2 patterns नजर आ रहे हैं already. Very good. Sachin ji saying double bottom in Feb and March. Correct. So here you can see there was a bottom around the same level, and then there was this neckline here, and then there was this huge breakout. And since then the price has moved up. So definitely between Feb and April, that's a double bottom. Very good. Okay, Murthy ji saying rounding bottom. I think more than rounding bottom, it's more of a double bottom, I would say, where both the lows are around the same level and then there is a neckline breakout. कप एंड हैंडल कहाँ पे संजय जी? आपको कप एंड हैंडल नहीं दिख रहा है यहाँ पे. ट्रिपल टॉप इन द बिगिनिंग. This one you are saying, yes, you can consider this also as a good top. You can see there are multiple resistance in this zone. Very good, guys. So Divi's Lab, again, there is a triple top here. More of double top, triple top below. There's a neckline breakdown, and then the price started to go down a bit. So yeah, so you can call this as triple top as well, or maybe a double top. You can see there's a strong resistance around the 4,500 mark here, and there's a strong support around the 2,800 mark here. So Divi's Lab, yes. So I can see a double bottom. I can also see a triple top, double top. But there is one more pattern that I'm looking at. Again, Texas Network is saying recent one, flag and pole. Where do you spot a flag and pole, Texas D? I think that is the answer I'm looking for. How many of you all can spot a flag and pole pattern? Okay, that's a hint that I'm giving to you all. There is a flag and pole here. I don't know how many of you all can spot a flag and pole pattern in this chart here. Anyone who wants to spot a flag and pole? Where exactly do you see a flag and pole pattern? But it's not a there is an inverse flag and pole. Yes, there is an inverse flag and pole. Remember, for flag and pole, the price that moves in a channel should be preceded by a sharp, steep rise or a fall. So just see whenever there is you can see this is where this was the pattern that I was talking about. Yeah, absolutely. So this is a sharp fall, and then the price tried to recover. It moved in a rising channel, and then there was a breakdown. Again, breakdown ke baad the price retested this zone, faced a strong selling pressure again, and it started to move lower. Very good. Okay, so this is 1 week's chart of CG Power and India Solutions, Industrial Solutions. So can you spot a pattern in this? कौन से patterns आपको नजर आ रहे हैं ये chart पे? Let me know in the chat box. Very difficult to spot a pattern in this chart. बट एक पैटर्न तो है यहाँ पे, नजर तो आ रहा है. या राउंडिंग टॉप तो है संजीव जी, करेक्ट। और राउंडिंग टॉप के साथ साथ हेड एंड शोल्डर्स भी है। आई थिंक जुलाई से लेके 2025 का स्टार्ट तक there is an head and shoulders. So here you can see, so this one I'm talking about. So this is your shoulder, this is your head, and this is your shoulder again. This is, if you draw a line like this is your trend line. And on the weekly chart, it broke below the trend line, and from there on, it started to go down. And it's also a rounding top. But this is a classic head and shoulder, or you can call it as a rounding top as well. Ideally, अगर आपको rounding top दिखता है, आपको साथ साथ शायद ही in most cases you can see a head and shoulder pattern as well. So there's a shoulder, the second high is higher than the first, second high is higher than the third, and then there is a trend line breakdown, and the price moves down here. Clear, guys? So that was all about today's session on chart patterns. So I hope this was informative. So if I have to give you a quick summary of all the patterns that we learned, I think you can go through these patterns again. These are available on SBI Securities YouTube channel by the name Chart Patterns Part 1 and Part 2. So we started off with double top. Then we learned about triple top. Then we learned about double bottom. Then we learned about triple bottom. Then we saw symmetrical triangle. Then we saw ascending triangle. Then we saw descending triangle. Then today we saw rising wedge. Then we saw falling wedge. Then we saw rounding top. Then we saw rounding bottom. Then we saw cup and handle. Then we saw head and shoulder. Then we saw flag and pole. And then we saw pennant patterns. Look how many patterns we have learned. Roughly around 15 patterns we have learned. And हर एक pattern को हमने example से समझा है. So you will see the first 7 patterns in part 1, the ones that are marked in bold. ये आपको part 1 में मिल जाएगा. And the ones that are not marked in bold, ये आपको part 2 में मिल जाएगा. So you can go to SBI Securities YouTube channel. You can find chart patterns part 1 and part 2. And you can revisit these sessions again. ठीक है? So that's all from today's webinar, guys. I'll see you tomorrow. So tomorrow we'll have the rollover data coming in today, and tomorrow we'll be having an extensive mid-market session about the rollovers. So let's see how the rollover comes in for this month. And Thursday again we'll be having a webinar from 4 to 5. So Thursday's session is going to be slightly interesting. So there is a pre-opening session for future contracts that is going to start from December 8. So a pre-open session कैसे होता है, कैसे orders match होते हैं, how is the opening price determined. आपने देखा होगा कि pre-market first 15 minutes में आपको एक opening price दिखता है. Opening price कैसे आता है, how is the opening price determined, all that we will learn in Thursday's session. So looking forward to your presence in that session, guys. Okay, so that's all from my end. Take care, stay safe, and see you tomorrow at 12:30 for the mid-market session on rollovers, guys. Bye, guys. Take care, and I'll see you all soon. Take care, guys. Stay safe.